We're going live Friday, believe it or not, fun Friday, end of the week, weekend to look forward to, 29th of April, John Lavinia's Success Mastermind General Session. John is traveling and away this week, so I'm covering. We've been covering and having interesting sessions all week. He may dial in, we may be lucky. Housekeeping wise, the Be Heard session is still on the calendar, 6 p.m. Eastern time. So John may well be going ahead with that. I haven't actually checked in with him today. So if you want to dial in, he may well be there. I hope he's had a good week. Great to see you all. We are going to launch forth without further ado while people dial in. I hope everyone has had a successful week. We've just been talking to Gail and Catherine. Gail, who's soaking up the sunshine and looking very happy, which is an inspiration in itself for Friday. So if anyone's got any fun Friday jokes, pile in. Very happy to hear them. If anyone wants to open their mic. I only have one to launch us today, and that is the motivational speaker who was admitted to hospital, was going to have an operation. So they asked him what his blood type was, and he immediately said, B positive. Very corny, but it had to be said. Had to be said. So I am going to launch while we wait for everybody. I'm just going to mute mics, everybody, if you can. So you might remember that I decided I would launch a series of discussions to go back through and recap everything we've been learning to try and tie it all back together. And I started last time talking about routine and habits and how important those were as the bedrock to actually putting into action all the things that we latch onto. It's all very well having our goals and our dreams and our ideas, but we have to actually do something about them. So routine and habit, we talked about. That's in the recording for anybody that would like to see it. But that was the first of 8 elements that we'll be running through. The second one today is passion and desire. And then that leaves us with positivity and belief, taking action or action, imperfect and done, and all those things. Adaptability and obstacles, we've talked about many times. Networking and how important that is. Learning to give people what they want, which is very much more of a business related success topic, and how do we actually deliver what people want. And then upskilling and lifelong learning, and not forgetting that the importance of that in the system. So today we are back onto the second unit, second element, which is passion and desire. So just taking stock of it, we've talked many times about the fact that we push on, we push through sometimes because we have to. We just have to do it. We're driven by some crisis, need to generate some emergency funds. We're trying to survive. We're climbing out of a bad situation. And we've heard many stories from people in the group that have gone through those things. And of course, then, ironically, that's quite easy. Although the situation is very challenging from a mindset point of view, it's actually quite easy because you have no choice. And when we have no choice, we tend to dig deep, just get on with it. And it's amazing what we can do. And if only we could bottle that and use it and open the bottle when we weren't motivated by those pressures, we'd be much more effective. But of course, most of the time, most of us or many of us are relatively comfortable. Things are working, and we may not have the same level of fear every day. And then we have to motivate ourselves. And that is very, very difficult. So that is when we have to start going back to this passion and desire question and trying to uncover and hook up to our passions and desires and what they are. So let's think of that really as hooking up to a locomotive, hooking the engine up to the locomotive, the locomotive up to the train. Passion and desire is the engine, it's the locomotive, it pulls us along. We've talked about it many times. Sounds easy, but it isn't, because we can lose track, we can forget to connect, we can forget to couple up, and then we sort of drift and just roll down the track rather than getting pulled down the track with force. And, let's face it, many of us have had a lot of life piled on top of us. And I like to think of it as a pile because things get thrown onto the pile and we can end up at the bottom of it. So much so that we can't even remember where we came from, what we wanted, why we wanted it, why we set off in the journey in the first place, where we were going. That may sound familiar to a lot of people. So we have to reconnect really. And to do that, we've got to create drive. And that comes from this whole question of passion and desire, our locomotive, in other words. So if we're not driven by sheer fear and sheer necessity, something has to take over to keep us going when things get really tough or boring, or we're in the middle of a long initiative which is not going to be completed for months. We need something more than just everyday life to keep us going. So, to be extraordinary, and we really need to be extraordinary because this is no ordinary life, but to be extraordinary, we have to find and constantly remind ourselves of those passions and desires. It sounds trite, we've heard it many times before, but it works. And if you really think about situations where you've been at your most effective and you've done something, dig deep and say, why was that? It quite often is because we really wanted it. We were really keen on it, enthused by it, that person, that thing, that initiative, and we just did it. And we did it to a different level. So this really does work. And it's not just another discussion, another talk about passion and desire. It really, really matters. This is the second element in our 8 elements, and it's absolutely crucial. Many of the books I'll refer to at the end that we've already read hook onto this. And many of the people, the inspirational people we've talked about, Henry Ford, Edison, all those people we keep talking about, found the secret of this and were able to harness it and use it for the rest of their life consistently. They didn't just do it once, they did it many times. Steve Jobs himself, who I've talked about many times, said the only way to do great work that is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking, don't settle. He wouldn't settle for second best ever. Now, he was somewhat extreme in the way he did that, which we might not entirely approve of, but he found the secret of attaching to that passion and not settling for second best. He never accepted anything other than perfection and pushed for that constantly, which is why he way exceeded normal limits in our ability to do things. He really did move mountains. He changed entire industries through sheer force of passion and through the drive and determination that actually then generated. It really generated in him an enormous degree of self-motivation, an extraordinary level of self-motivation, and an unstoppable self-belief. Nobody could stop him. He would keep knocking on the door until they gave way and gave him at least what he'd asked for. Napoleon Hill himself said, desire is the starting point of all achievement. So if we remember Napoleon Hill's great book, Think and Grow Rich, which we've read many times together, you might remember Edwin Barnes. Now, if that name isn't familiar, he knew about Edison. He lived in the middle of nowhere, had nothing in particular, no particular experience. I think the implication of the story was that he had pretty sort of shabby clothes. He wasn't, highly educated or anything of that nature. But he decided to jump onto a freight train. It sounds as though he was stowing away because he decided he was going to be Edison's business partner, not just employee. He said, I am going to be Edison's business partner. That became his overriding purpose. That motivated him to jump on that train, go all the way down to see Edison and say, I want to be your business partner. Edison was so impressed by this, he gave him a pretty menial job in the factory until he proved himself. And then one day, Edison had a brand new product, needed to launch it, and he took it on. He said, I would like to run that project. And he became effectively Edison's business partner. He succeeded. He had nothing, absolutely nothing, and no particular means of or reason to believe he would ever have anything. But he so believed in this mission. It was his passion that he did it. That is what we're talking about. That's the sort of thing we have to distill for ourselves. And this is not just a casual exercise. We've really got to be serious about this. Sit in the quiet and start really analyzing what we really want. And I mean really want, not just, yeah, that's great. Yeah, I feel okay if I got that. What would I feel absolutely great about? And as if I'd won the lottery if I achieved it. Abraham Lincoln put it another way. He probably said this. It's attributed to him. He said, and in the end, it's not the years in your life that count. It's the life in your years, which is a wonderful way of putting it. How much are you going to pack in to the years you've been allotted? Not just counting how many you've got, but what did you do with them? To really fulfill and live up to that quote from Lincoln, you've got to really mean it. You've got to really live it and actually want to make an impact. You've got to really want something and push for it constantly and consistently. That is what these people did, and what they talked about. Lincoln, Edison, Steve Jobs, all of these people managed to capture the feelings that they could constantly refresh to remind themselves of what it was they wanted and keep pushing for it no matter how tough the going was. William Blake puts it another way and looks at another aspect of it. William Blake, the great writer, poet, and artist, he said, "Those who restrain desire do so because theirs is weak enough to be restrained." So in other words, you shouldn't be able to restrain your desire if it's strong enough. He was pointing out to us that if we're able to restrain it, we probably aren't on the right track because it's too weak, and therefore it can be restrained. So take note of that. Very interesting take on the situation. All the people that lived these great lives knew the power and passion of dreams and desires, and the fact that they were too strong to be restrained. So going back really a step, nobody generally is just going to give us anything. I think we've probably learned that in life already, all of us. No one's just going to hand you something on the whole. We have to really want it and go and look for it and go and get it. Promotion, new business, new opportunity. It's us that has to grab it. Generally, no one's just going to hand it to you for nothing. Even if they're well disposed towards you, you have to make the running. And that's where also, by the way, self-promotion comes into this, which some of us I know are not very good at. Not only have we got to want something, we have to promote ourselves, blow our own trumpet, tell people where we're going, what we want, and what we're going to do about it. You've got to tell people you're there. We'll come back to that in some of our business sessions, because that's an important aspect of networking and marketing. But for now, we're just focusing on actually having to go and make the running ourselves. If we have a dream and we sit there and wait for someone to come to us or give it to us, probably nothing much is going to happen. You might get lucky. Some people have fallen on their feet, arrived at the right place at the right time with the right experience, and it's just happened. And maybe that was fate. But generally, you have to make your fate and make your luck. When you hear people saying, yes, that person was lucky, generally not. They made that luck by sheer effort and force of will and consistent pushing. So have we, any of us, ever felt blocked? Either that's another aspect. Have we just felt permanently blocked or temporarily blocked? That is, again, where this long-term consistent passion and desire comes in. We have to make our own waves to remove those blockages. We have to generate our own wins, and it's us that has to break down those obstacles. If we look at blockages in front of us, just accept that they're there and say, well, they'll resolve themselves, we're just going to sit there and waste time, diffuse our energy and diffuse our dreams until possibly, unfortunately, we won't even remember them. So if you sit there for years in a situation where you feel blocked, in the wrong environment, in the wrong job, the wrong role, the wrong business, the wrong community initiative, whatever it is, generally, eventually, we just dilute ourselves and we can't even remember what it was we really loved and why we were doing it. But taking things the other way around, passion actually helps us to identify what fits our needs, because if we have identified that passion and it's there, then we start looking at things through what I call passion lenses. We start analyzing things to see if they fit with what we're seeing through those lenses. That passion then becomes a filter. It tells us what's going to fit with those passions and desires, burning desires, as Napoleon Hill would put it, and what doesn't fit. And that includes being more aware, if we're looking through passion lenses, at identifying good habits and unhelpful habits, skills that are going to help us, people that are going to help us to get there, and experiences that are going to help us to get there. So if we actually change our lenses to see them through the lenses of our passion and what really is driving us, then we're going to notice new things and we're going to see them differently. That's a very important aspect of this. But we've talked about obstacles as well. When the going gets really tough, we have to have this drive and passion just to be able to keep going. It's really hard to keep going and climbing when we're getting knocked back, knocked back, knocked back. The myth of Sisyphus, I've mentioned before, he's condemned in Greek mythology by the gods to keep rolling a rock up a hill. When he just reaches the summit, it rolls all the way back down again, and he has to start again, and that's his destiny. But it may feel like that sometimes, and when we keep rolling that rock up that slope, it's hard to do it again. It's hard to push it back up. And it's only deep-seated passion and desire that's going to drive us to do that, to propel us back up that slope, to push us through the mud, to get our legs out of that mire. That's especially true the further you are away from the ultimate goal. Your ultimate goal might be complicated, long-term, and need a lot of different stages to be fulfilled. You're no way going to keep going long enough if you don't have that anchor of passion and desire that you've really identified, because it takes a lot to overcome obstacles. It takes a lot to overcome fear as well. To get on a freight train and go and see Thomas Edison and say, I want to be your business partner, when you're dressed fairly shabbily, don't have any particular CV or background, takes a lot of courage. That's a heck of an obstacle to overcome. Could we have done that? I asked this in one of my talks. How many of us would have got on that freight train and said, I've got nothing, no, not much, but I'm going to go and speak to Edison, who's the equivalent now of somebody like Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, you name it, Elon Musk. Would any of us have got on a train to go and see Elon Musk and said, I'm going to be your business partner? How many of us would have done that? We need to get that level of passion to feel we could get on that train and see Elon Musk. If we don't feel like that, there's probably something wrong. And we need to relook at our objectives, because you should feel that fired up about what you're doing, that we'd be prepared to do that. Let's call it the Elon Musk test. And he's certainly in the news at the moment, so hopefully we'll remember that. Anyway, really, a pile of logs isn't going to burn until you actually light it. So be who you want to be, know it, and do something about it. Set fire to those logs. They're not going to burn on their own. We are the master of our own destiny. So the question to ourselves is, where do we want to go? Know ourselves, know yourself, know what drives you. Everybody's different. My passion is not your passion. We're going to share certain things, but there's one thing above all that's going to drive you. I'm still constantly searching and thinking about that, and I hope you are too. It never really ends, that search. Things change, or we suddenly get new awareness of something way back that now suddenly means something to us. So never stop looking. But we have to carry on regardless. When the going gets tough, minor setbacks, major setbacks, we have to have this big vision, this big driving passion. We talked about looking at one bicycle wheel in front of us when the going gets tough, looking at the hardest hill in the race, the Tour de France. You look at one bicycle wheel in front of you at a time until you get to the top. But we still have to know where the finish line is. We can't just look at one bicycle wheel without knowing where our finish line is, because we're trying to get to the finish line. We're not trying to get one bicycle wheel in front of us. So we need to know where we're going. And then the funny thing about this passion and burning desire is that it does create a virtuous circle. Because once we've actually started on track with our burning desire towards our passions, that actually fuels our mindset, which in turn fuels success, which in turn feeds back into the passion and desires and strengthens the whole cycle until we get stronger and stronger, like a wheel that's been set in motion that suddenly gains in momentum. That's how it works. It all feeds back. It all generates joy and fulfillment. We feel better. Our mindset's improved. Then we become more effective because we do more, we practice more, we want to do more, and we get closer to our goals. So this is a virtuous circle. So it may seem hard at first, but the more you feed in, the more you'll get out, the more you'll want to put back in, and this perpetual motion is then created. But we can define purpose and passion in terms of proactivity as well. If we don't have a definite purpose, drive, and direction, we're just going to keep responding. We're a respondent, probably in a random and reactive way. That is not going to work. We need to be proactive. We need to be creating momentum, not just responding to what's happening to us. And all that happens if we're linked clearly to goals and we know what our passions are, supported, of course, by the habits and routines we talked about last time. But we need to be proactive, and to be proactive, we have to be passionate and know why we're doing it. Otherwise, what happens, and let's look into our own lives at what's happened to us, all of us. Otherwise, we tend to be reactive. We wait for something to happen. We do what someone else has asked us to do. We sort the other person's problem out. We sort the admin out. We sort out what's thrown at us. Rather than saying proactively, that part of the whole day for me is sacrosanct. I'm not giving it away. I'm doing my purpose activity, my on-purpose activity. I'm not going to be reactive in those time slots. Those are golden. Protect them. Proactivity counts. It will get you closer to where you want to go. Reactivity doesn't. It gets you closer to where somebody else needs you to go. That's the difference. So what can we actually do about these burning desires? Well, let's remind ourselves. We've talked before about consulting with people you trust for ideas on how they see your burning desires. Sometimes those people can perceive what motivates you better than you can. I've certainly found that. Sometimes we don't see how we're coming across. Somebody can say to me, yes, when you talk about that, you're particularly fired up and I've noticed a change in you. That's why you need to talk to friends and family you trust who really know you. There are also many people in this group that are good at listening, so don't hesitate to reach out to them. The people that really know you will notice a change in your behavior, how you speak, how you react, how animated you are. Those are all incredible clues as to what those driving passions really are. They may not be what you think they are. And then feeling, how do things feel? So when you discuss an idea, an experience, a memory, how does that feel to you? Can you feel some difference? Because we're trying to uncover these gold nuggets, and feelings connect us to those. How does each thought, each possible goal, each activity actually strike you? Does it generate a special feeling, you a different feeling? See if you can just note those things down and latch onto them and remember them. Some of us have done it by creating what we call vision boards, where you put all your visual representations of your dreams photographically on a board and look at it every day. Do you have one? If you don't, maybe try it, because it has worked for some in the group very well. We've heard incredible stories about people pinning their dream home on the board and then actually getting it. Or a picture of the business they wanted in a visual representation, then actually doing it. So it does work for certain people. What we're really looking for is to connect to the feelings that give us clues about the gold nuggets as to what we should be doing. So when we talk about something or we think about something, how do we feel? It's a lot to do with that. Envisionment is another powerful tool. How would I feel? How would I really feel if I achieved that, did that, got that, managed that? Would it feel like this huge lottery win, multi-billion-dollar lottery win? Would I be jumping up and down, raising my arms in the air and saying, yes, I've done it? Or would I just be feeling, oh, yeah, let's move on. So what? What's the next thing? Because if that's the case, it's not the right target. If you really would feel, yeah, this is so exciting. If that happened, I'd just be absolutely blown away by it. You've probably got it right. So this envisionment of what it would feel like is so important as an analytical tool for connecting to our passions and our desires. Fourth thing, really, change perspective. Have a look at it from another angle. Who can I help? Who could I help? Who would I like to help? What would I like to help with? If I can question myself and imagine being in an interview with an interviewer who's asking me these kind of questions, who would you like to help? What would you like to do? What would you like to help with? Can I answer those questions? Can I answer them? How would I answer them? Write the answers down. One of our group members, Nicola, last year actually told us about this. She asked the question, who can I help? And she says it changed her entire outlook and approach. She looked at things completely differently after she asked herself that question. She was very clear then on what it was she could help with and who she could help. So can we actually contemplate who we could help and how that would make us feel if we could help in that particular area? And it has to be pretty specific. What could I help with? What could I do for somebody? What would I like to do for somebody? Because many of the things we do just don't have any actual connection to our passions at all. So we've got to try and hook these things together and join them up. So let's try and question ourselves perhaps to see which ones fit and connect to the things that really we desire and we would love doing. Fifth thing we can do is always look back into our past, particularly crucial, because our past is actually littered with clues about how we feel, what we like, what we don't like, what really motivates us. So perhaps if we just sit in the quiet, meditate, or just sit quietly and run through some of the things we can remember, particularly in our earliest memories, and try to connect back to those feelings in the past. We've got to go very deep into our roots for that. Can we even remember? You see, this is the thing. If you sit there right now, can you even remember those things after all of life's battling and rushing around? Did choice really just go out of the window in favor of survival because we had to make money, pay the bills, so we can't even remember how we felt? Are there any clues left? Well, there are clues left there. It might take a long time to dig them back to the surface, but they are there. And some of those things you'll think, yeah, I used to love doing that. What I used to do that all the time. What was it? Because those nuggets of joy are actually buried in our past. And those moments of joy, happiness, and fulfillment are enormous clues. Something we just felt good about achieving or doing. It might come to the surface, and it can come to the surface. Perhaps discuss it again with family and friends. Try and get them to remind you what you were like, what you used to do. And that might just generate some memories and clues for you, for all of us. The sixth thing is, can we actually remember what the dreams we had are? So connect back and analyze what it was about those dreams, if we can remember them, that specifically was the basis of the desire. It might not be on the surface. It might be something under the surface. What would you actually like to happen or create? How would it feel if you did it? So analyze those dreams. Say, what is it about them? What's it telling me? There are many similar questions which help us to envisage how we would feel and why, because we've got to delve into the dreams and see what it is about them that really makes up our passions and the real clues to our needs. It's not on the surface. We've got to look beneath the surface. It's like looking at the surface of a pond and just seeing the ripples in the water, not what's in the pond. We've got to go deeper, because the real answers are really below the surface always. It may not be the actual work or the activity we've identified that we enjoyed doing. It's the way you felt about it. Why? What were the ingredients in that activity that actually really grabbed you, that you actually connected with? Perhaps it was actually the fact you were connecting and interacting with people, because you're a people person and you love interacting with people. Perhaps you like solving problems, and that's what it really was about, doing those jigsaws, solving those Sudoku puzzles, whatever it was you used to like doing. Perhaps you like negotiating, haggling, and getting a win. Perhaps you like creating things. So there was a personal driver or thrill in there somewhere. What was that personal driver or thrill? It's not the obvious things. And that has given many people a clue to a whole new career, a whole new endeavor. Eighth area, if you like, is purpose in thought. Purpose is a thought. And we've been taught this in many of our studies, our book club study sessions. Purpose is thought, and therefore it's said you should be able to feel it. So Jamie Smart, in his little book of results, says that you should be able to feel it. That book I recommend. So really, purpose is coming. Your purpose comes from within you. Our perception of the whole world is actually generated from within us. So we should be able to feel it, and that's what we're looking for. That's what we're looking for. So purpose is a thought that I should actually feel. Jamie Smart says that we should therefore be able to realize it or glimpse it. It should occur to us rather than being able to, having to work too hard on it. If it's there and we're getting close to it, we should feel it and realize it. There should be a flash of inspiration or an awakening. There might be a eureka moment, but we should start to feel it. There might be a gentle growing certainty, he says, something we just feel growing inside us, but it is from inside us. So he says we should look inside ourselves rather than totally outside. And that's true, because we're all different. And that's where we're going to find the true feelings of security, of fulfillment, not just in some external accomplishment, he says. We have to look inside ourselves to how we feel. We will be resonating with our purpose once we know what it is. And like-minded people will then resonate with us. This is what we've talked about before in terms of everybody being connected. You start to feel the people that are on your wavelength because you're pursuing your own true wavelength, and things start to resonate back like frequencies in a piece of music. They lock together, they intermesh. So purpose and direction, once we've found it, is going to unlock other powers. It's going to unlock ourselves. And that unlocks things like courage, motivation, resolve. That's what happens. So finally, just mentioning some of the books, I've already mentioned them before I open the floor. And Napoleon Hill, of course, for anyone that wants to read further, Think and Grow Rich, focuses 100% on this mindset, burning desire, passion, thought, and drive. Also, the great Earl Nightingale, many of us listen to his talk, which you can see on YouTube, The Stranger's Secret and the Power of Thought. Incredibly incisive. Stranger's Secret is you become what you think about. And there's a whole line of mindset writing and thinking based around that. So if you find your why and engage in thinking and envisaging the outcome you want, you tend to drive towards it and to attain it. This is the way it's summarized. He also said that success is simply the pursuit of a worthy ideal. So we have to have one. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's worthy and we're pursuing it, that's success for him. So don't get phased out by the fact somebody else has a bigger goal than you do, which is far more grandiose. We don't all need to be Steve Jobs or Elon Musk. We can have a perfectly worthy ideal. And if we pursue it, that in itself is success. And we can feel good about it. And if it's in line with our passions, we're going to feel better about ourselves. We will have achieved what we wanted. So don't worry about what it is. We're all different. That's what we're told. And it's true. Simon Sinek, Find Your Why, another great series of books with the golden circle, how to find the sweet spot, how to identify what you should be doing. And he describes this as 3 concentric circles with why in the center, the second circle around that, the why, the what and the how. And he describes the problem in businesses and with people as often being that people focus on what and how, on the features, on the gadget, features that are delivered rather than why are we doing it in the first place. So he says if we focus on those things, we don't really ever bother with the why. Why are we in business doing what we're doing? Why is Apple doing what it's doing? Why do people queue for a week on the pavement to get that gadget from Apple when it's launched? Why do they do that? It's not about what is in that new iPhone. It's about why they're there, because they identify with a whole philosophy and a whole movement which has been created, a whole tribe around Apple products. So the great excitement builds because people want to identify and do identify with those products. They're not just there because it has a new camera on the phone. It's about more than that. It's about the why and the center of these 3 concentric circles. Great series of books, and the Find Your Why book is incredibly useful if you're really looking for your purpose. But our why, he says, should express who we are when we're at our natural best. It's the sweet spot. If we're in the right piece of that circle, in our sweet spot, then we're going to be at our natural best and we will feel it. I mentioned already Jamie Smart, little book of results on achieving big goals, tends to run through these kind of things, looking inside ourselves, linking up to how we should break out to achieve big goals. So really, let's find our why and our passion and our meaning, because that passion and desire is crucial. Without it, all the other things are tools which you may as well leave on the shelf in the shed, because you can just start hammering and drilling and doing things, but they're not going to deliver anything. You'll just end up with a random assorted pieces of wood, not a constructed, wonderful result. Walt Disney said, if you can dream it, you can do it. And it's true. It's true. These people have done it. So, I think of it myself, let's not be just the bells who never ring. Let's try and ring gloriously, because we've been given this wonderful life. It's an extraordinary life. So let's just be extraordinary. Let's not settle for second best, as Steve Jobs told us. So at that point, love to hear your thoughts. Any fun Friday jokes, thoughts about passion and desire, what it means to you. If you've succeeded in identifying it, how did you do that? What can you tell everybody? Can you give any tips and hints for everybody? What's been your experience? Are you still struggling with this? Do you need help with it? Why? I mean, let's try and see, can anyone identify what the problems are and what we can do about them, or float them out there if you don't know what to do about them, because this is so crucial in our 8 elements for achieving success, I believe. So anyone get any thoughts? Gail's looking pensive. Gail, you're on mute there, but dive in. Mandy, looking thoughtful. I think, there we go. Catherine's having trouble with the internet, but you're welcome to dive in if you can solve that, Catherine. We'd love to hear from you. Gail, go ahead.
First of all, I have a joke. What did Spartacus say when the lion ate his wife?
No idea.
Nothing. He was gladiator. He was a gladiator.
Great, Gail. Well, let's cheer up and brighten up our Friday for a start off. I love it. Thank you.
I love everything that you're saying today. And when I look back in my life, things that I've achieved that I never thought were possible, there was a lot of feeling. You know, I wanted to travel, and I would ask people all the time, how do you do that? Never believing that I could, and now I have. When my husband and I wanted to buy a house, we didn't think we could. And I was driving around and I saw somebody who was selling their house privately. We bought that house. Just different things, like even my job as director of religious education, I never thought that that would be possible, and it became real. And there is you mentioned a saying, and it reminded me of one that a friend always quoted, and they got it from a book. I don't remember who it was, but if the mind can conceive it, and you believe it, you will achieve it. And it's so
Napoleon Hill.
true. Pardon?
Napoleon Hill.
Oh, is that who it was?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
sorry, Gail, you carry on.
I'm glad you said that. So I think it's true. For me right now, I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know if I really want to be in business. I've got to find out what my purpose is. So all the things that you're talking about today, you know, digging deep and asking other people, I think that's all good advice, because I'm sort of in the middle of what do I want to do, but I don't want to just sit around. So I have to find, and I tried different things like the e-commerce and all of that. It's not my thing, and I don't really like it. And so I just don't know where or what yet, but it will happen. So thank you for today.
My gosh, Gail, you've actually touched on a really important issue there. I mean, yeah, I think there's a danger. Some of us feel bad that it's not commerce that's actually our passion and desire, and that a lot of the people who joined the group originally were driven by an e-commerce initiative.
Yeah.
Now, there's nothing wrong with not having a commercial purpose. I think what it means is, if what we're hoping for is that our passion and desire in somehow creates a business and a commercial purpose so we can live by it, if we're very lucky, and create a business from it. Well, that may not happen, but there's nothing wrong with that. But you're absolutely right about this. That means we can still achieve our passion and our goal, but it might have to be supported by a side gig that pays the bills. And then we pursue our main initiative in our own time. I've mentioned before people like Anthony Trollope, who wrote 47 novels. He worked most of his life in the post office, went to work every morning at 9 something, did his 9 to 5 or whatever it was. He got up at 5 o'clock every morning, wrote for 3 hours solid. I can't remember, I think it was something like 2,500 or 4,000 words before work every single day. But he worked in the post office to earn his bread, pay his bills, pay his rent, the things he had to pay. Had breakfast after he'd written for 3 hours and went to work. There's nothing wrong with that. We just have to look at what works for us. So if this passion isn't immediately going to pay the bills and create a wonderful e-commerce business or any other kind of business, nothing wrong with that. Don't abandon it, because that's what matters to us. Find a way of fitting it in is the message. And you're absolutely right, Gail. You've hit on such an important issue there, because I don't want anyone to feel that because they haven't generated some incredible idea for e-commerce that it's a failure. It isn't. It just means it's not your thing.
Yeah.
How many of the people in this group decided that Amazon e-commerce wasn't for them? Probably most of them, actually.
Yeah.
We've all gone off down different train tracks since then. Nothing wrong with that. So first thing we should do is look for our own particular drivers, dreams, passions, and be clear on them, and then work out how they sit. If they don't create a business, fair enough. How am I going to pay the bills? But what we then have to do is keep sacrosanct time in our day, in our week, and our weekend for the thing that really matters to us. So we actually work on it. Otherwise, we're going to be ending life unfulfilled, full of regret that we didn't do it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Gail. I'm so pleased that you brought that up.
Thank you.
Anyone else with thoughts? I can coax Mandy to give us a thought. Yeah, she's always got brilliant thoughts. Or anyone else, Catherine? Hi, Mandy.
I'm thinking through them. Sorry, yeah, I'm thinking through them, and I think that there's a lot of different things coming up here. I think with Gail, I think at different points in your life you get a different purpose. So the purpose that I might have now from what I gained over the last 5 years or so probably will be different to the purpose when I was younger. But that's fine, because you will have different goals, won't you? Your 10-year goals, your 5-year goals will be different, but you just keep revisiting them as you get older. And if you're financially sound and you don't need to be doing a business, then you don't need to look at that. You can think, what do I want to help somebody, or do you want to do something for yourself? If you're helping somebody, who is it? Animals? Is it people? Is it, you know, anything like that? I think that on my side, it is going for the business, but not necessarily Amazon business, but taking it off in this different track of reporting, which has always been something that I've had an interest in, and I think I really do love doing. And it is going up that hill and keep letting the small things and the bigger things get in the way and just pushing through them and just keep going in that direction. That Simon Sinek's Why is on YouTube, I think. I think it's a TED talk. I think it is more business related, but it might be worth having a look at. So I think it's a TED talk. It doesn't call it that, but I think it has got in there finding your why somewhere, and it's just an hour if people don't necessarily read the book. And it was really good. I remember watching it at that time. And we're doing You Were Born Rich, and we started it last night with Bob Proctor, and he is amazing, and he's talking a lot about Napoleon Hill. He comes up in it a lot. And I think we can remember things more than we think we can at some point. It's like, yeah, when you said that quote, it's like, I'm sure that's Napoleon Hill, but you never want to say just in case with all the books we read. But he talks about the vibrations that you were saying, that we're all energy, and that everything around us is energy, and it's all depends on the vibration you're on. And if you can get onto that vibration, then you will resonate with other people. And you said it, you know, people come along when you go in one direction, you're resonating, you're on the same vibration level. So all the frequencies, and so the other people that relate to you, everything just starts this momentum. And Tony Robbins says that decide what you want to do and then take massive action towards it, which isn't always easy. He's another guru I really love. And so, yeah, but like you said, don't get to the end of your life and think you haven't done something that you want to do. We're here, we can do so much, and life is so much bigger than we might sometimes think it is. Go for it. And yeah, that's my bit for today.
Many thoughts there. Thank you so much, Mandy. And yeah, Simon Sinek, there is a talk, and I think some of us did watch it. The book is particularly good. If you've got the patience to read it, it's particularly good. I think, for example, he talks about a whole stream of processes whereby you can try and identify your innermost desires. He talks about imagining going back into your life experiences, particularly when younger, as panning for gold in a river. You're trying to pan out and sieve out those little thoughts and feelings you can remember, some great feeling you had when you did something you loved to do with your family, something you like to do on your own. Maybe you had a hobby when you were very young that you loved. Maybe you had activities you used to do that you absolutely loved. And those are all clues. And he talks about this panning process to link us back to those little gold nuggets we're trying to sieve out, which you can then take forward and say, well, if that's the case, what does that tell me about the feelings they gave me and why they gave me those feelings? Again, as I said, was it because I was dealing with people and helping them? Was it because I just liked solving things? What was it I was doing? So it's way down below the surface will be the answer. And that's the difficult bit, where you have to sit there for a bit in the quiet and say, now, hang on a minute, it's all very well. Yeah, I love playing chess. Why did you like playing chess? What was it about that? Was it the competition, the interaction, the solving of the problem, the strategy? What was it about it and why? And then you can go several layers down and possibly end up with some really good clues. So I think it's a good book. And as Mandy said, if you want to just watch the talk, that was very good. YouTube, there's a lot of his stuff on YouTube. This idea of the golden circle, the 3 concentric circles, and why being the driver in the middle. But he does go down into how you identify the why. Find your why, he calls it. Very important. You talked about vibration. Well, we've talked about vibrations so many times, and we've had so many sessions with Nancy, with Therese, with Stuart. Some people get phased out by this and think we've gone slightly weird, but actually vibration is just energy. So it helps some people just to think, if they're not spiritual and they don't believe in these things, just think of it as energy. Because when we're generating energy, because we're linked, closely coupled up to our passions, we tend to get energetic, and you might notice it about yourself. You're much more fired up, you speak in a convicted way, you take people on and challenge them, you know, you go and do it, you go a bit faster. Those things are energy, and when you're putting out that energy, as Mandy was saying, things come back because people with a similar energies for that thing will connect and notice you, and you will notice them. So that really is important. And lastly, if it is a business context you're working in, what we're really talking about is linking this up to the customer value proposition. There's a whole recording about this in the Life and Business Tools library. What am I trying to deliver to somebody, and what problem am I trying to solve? Am I interested and passionate about what I'm trying to give them? Are they interested in what I'm trying to do? You're linking it all up. So you find the tribe of people that want what it is you've got to give. And that's when you get this full alignment, and you've got a business, you've got a product, you've got a service, and it will work. So there's a whole recording about that. And that's the back end of linking this up to a business. So there is a process. Anyway, I'm jabbering on, and Linda's got a hand up. Great to see you, Linda. Let's hear from Linda. Thanks. Hi.
Hey, Adrian. Hey, everyone. Wow, Adrian, I mean, I came late, but there's just so much in there. I don't even know what to talk about. And Gail, I think you already know your purpose, but I mean, you are a great grandmother, you know, you're a great parent, you've done so many things in your life. I don't know, I see a lot of things in you, but and for me, I mean, I feel like I've been trying to figure out who I am all my life. And then I look back and it was like, yeah, okay, I was a mother. Now I'm a grandmother. I have a business. After meeting you guys, I mean, we've been on this journey for 2 years. It's like everything's changing for me now. Talked about alignment. Alignment is like, to me, is like order. And I feel like I finally have order in my mind of what it is I want. My goals have changed, but along the way, it's like I've met different people, I've had different opportunities, and now it's kind of like all being laid out in front of me. And I feel like for the first time, I finally have order in my mind, like a blueprint to where I'm going. And energy, it's like, you know, we have different levels of energy. So, and that has to do with self-image. My self-image has changed since I've met all of you. If it wasn't for John, I wouldn't even have found the books that I've, you know, been reading. And Adrian, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like that list of books that you said today. If you could post that in Facebook, that would be great, because I couldn't write anything down. So our self-image reflects what energy level we're actually on. I mean, if we're not going to grow and have goals to bring us to a higher level, then we're just going to go sideways. We're not going to go up. You know, we're not going to grow. And really, it's our purpose to create and grow. So I don't know. There's a lot more, but I don't know exactly how to say it all. I don't know how to say it all.
That was a lot. Well, you know, Linda, what can we say? Because I think we've all watched you definitely change. And I think from one of the discussions I had with you, what I would say is this alignment and order in mind that you're talking about has translated itself into you being able to filter against your blueprint, because you now know what you want to filter in and what you want to filter out. You seem to be really quite determined now to do it. Whereas perhaps before, like all of us, like me, you were taking on everything and anything and just pushing every day, just keeping going. You now seem to be filtering and much more focused. And I think it's all about this focus, as you say, against your alignment and this blueprint that you've built. And that's what we're all aiming for, to construct that blueprint with our passions and desires built into it, so that we can filter things out and say no, because it's saying no that we've talked about before that matters. We've got to be ready in advance to say no, so we don't just automatically take on another piece of work, another project, another challenge that somebody else needs us to do that we don't need. So I think that you're absolutely right about that. I'm glad you raised it. It's the not to do list and the ability to say no, which is going to free us up, because we're all trying to be helpful. We pick up the phone, we respond to somebody's request, and we try and help them. But we have to know what we're going to allow them and what is going to interfere with our own goals and our own blueprint and what we need for our own blueprint. Otherwise, we'll just take a whole pile of challenges on and we won't even start on our own blueprint. The day finished, you say, gosh, I didn't do one thing on my blueprint today. That happens all the time. So you're right about that. And I think this blueprint you're talking about is what we need to distill, so that we measure everything we're asked to do against it. And we get better at saying, sorry, I can't help you, or I can only do a little bit for you. Then you've got to carry it forward, because we just sacrifice ourselves otherwise. If you're a helpful, kind person, you sacrifice yourself, but you won't get anywhere near your goals. Now, maybe that's your driver. Great. But if you've got a goal in mind, give yourself the opportunity to pursue it. Yeah, really do that. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. I know, I love that. And energy and self-image, all linked, is absolutely right. And I've always said, Linda, that, you know, the way other people see people dialing into these calls is often very different to how they see themselves. So go and talk to people, again, who know you, because they will tell you who you really are. People have been crushed, oppressed, bullied, stopped, blocked. You know, I hesitate to say it, but particularly ladies. There's been a lot of oppression, and I think people can sometimes feel bad about themselves because that's what they've been told. That's how they've been taught to think and conditioned and brainwashed. So please go and talk to people about who you really are, because people see you a very different way. And when we see you, Linda, coming out of the screen, you know, we see you as a powerful, determined person, really switched on and very clever. And that's how you're coming across more and more. The real you is coming out because you're able to project it and speak it now, which is great to see. But, you know, you had to come to that realization. And from what you were saying, you didn't feel like that without having had other people tell you maybe. So I think that's important for all of us. That's important for all of us. Go and find out who we are. Yeah. Well done, Linda. I mean, so great. You're so open with sharing with people. I appreciate that, because it's a great inspiration to other people who may still be struggling with this kind of thing. So I think it's really helpful. Appreciate that. Well, we're coming up to the top of the hour. I don't know if anyone else has got any profound thoughts or fun Friday jokes or craziness, but that was really great. And I'm so glad you all dialed in. That's the second element in my analysis of the 8 elements of success, which I'm calling the success formula. We're going to move on next time. In fact, it's next week, because I'm covering for John today. So we're going to move on to look at positivity and belief, how important that is as a driver in getting forward. So these first 2 elements were about identifying our passion and desire as our engine, putting in place a routine and habits that will actually allow us to achieve getting forward with those passions and desires and goals. And now I'm going to move on to just sheer mindset and bloody minded application and being able to be positive. So that's my next challenge. Anyway, great to see you all. Send me any thoughts you have. I'll try and just post now those books, Linda. And thanks all for doing it. Don't forget, John has still got in the calendar Be Heard, where you can exchange views with him, share your ideas with John as to what you'd like to change, see, ask about, have a session on. It looks as though it's still in the calendar, so he's probably going to do that at, I think it's 6 p.m. Eastern Time US, if you can do it. Otherwise, it's business as usual on Monday. I know it's a bank holiday in the UK, but I'm sure that's not going to stop John. So he's going to be in his seat in front of his camera on Monday for the general session. In the meantime, have a great weekend if I don't see you. And thank you so much for all your inputs. Really appreciate that. Remember, you know, if you can dream it, you can do it. You definitely can. Whether it's commercial or non-commercial, it doesn't have to be commercial. Decide what it is. Change the next generation, Gail, by changing and inspiring your grandchildren, great grandchildren, grandchildren, you can change the next generation, which will ripple out forever through the universe. It's that piece of music I referred to, which is going to play for 639 years or 649 years. That music and the notes will be echoing in the future, in centuries to come. And that's what you have definitely, I think, already done, Gail. And you can do more of it. And that in itself is an incredible achievement, because that's where it starts. It's one person at a time. If we want to change people's attitudes, stop conflict, inspire people to help other people and improve our communities, it starts with the individual. And I think, Gail, that's what you're very good at doing. And I think you've been doing it from what I've seen of your grandchildren. So thanks very much. Anyway, on that note, leave you in peace for the weekend and your Friday nights, and raise a glass of wine and a toast to your future success with your dreams, and dare to believe and dare to go for it. He or she who dares wins, as they would say. Take care. Great to see you. I'm going to sign off. Bye for now. Take care, everybody. Bye. Good to see you. Bye.